Until Dick Cheney eclipsed it with his own tour of the CYA variety, the most prominent public effort by the Republicans this year had been the George W. Bush Presidential Legacy Tour. Even if underpublicized at the moment, it is still continuing, but now it has hit a huge landmine, a fact about George Bush's presidency that may overwhelm every other symbol of it. It is, with great irony, about reading. It is that the previous president had enough time to read 1 or 2 books per week. It is our #1 story, tonight's WTF moment. Apparently, this is the current occupant's president as an ordinary guy behind-the-scenes interview week. He did one of those unprecedented access performances with Britain's BBC, so this quote comes from yesterday. Justin Webb, reading anything at the moment? President Obama, you know, I'm reading a book called Netherland by Joseph O'Neill, almost finished, excellent novel. Justin Webb, we'll let you get back to it. I'm sure you have other things to do. Before you wonder just how stoked Mr. O'Neill is at the presidential plug, consider this from our friend Howard Feynman, who published it online for MSNBC.com on May 6th. Here's a small but revealing sliver of news concerning our cool, hard-to-fathom president. According to his closest advisor, David Axelrod, Barack Obama really likes the novel he's reading right now. In fact, he likes it a lot. It's the first non-business reading he's allowed himself since Inauguration Day. The first novel for the first reader, revealed by David Leonhardt in the New York Times, is Netherland by Joseph O'Neill. Revealed by David Leonhardt of the New York Times, you say. That would have been on April 28th, but it referred to an interview he had with Mr. Obama 2 weeks earlier on the 14th. At the end of our conversation, when I asked him if he was reading anything good, he said he'd become sick enough of briefing books to begin reading a novel in the evenings. Netherland by Joseph O'Neill. Oh, begun reading it on April 14th, and he's nearly finished, you say. One suspects this is no indictment of the quality of the prose or the plot. He is the president of the United States. He's busy. He can't spend all his time reading books or watching, say, cable chatter on television. Frankly, I don't want the president to have more time to read books than I do. And this is where we double back to Mr. Bush. I don't read a lot of Karl Rove's columns in the Wall Street Journal, but frankly, even if I did, I can't think of anything I'd like to read less than a Karl Rove column at Christmas time. Yet here, helpfully resurrected, is part of his Yuletide offering from last December 26th. With only 5 days left, my lead is insurmountable. The competition can't catch up, and for the 3rd year in a row, I'll triumph. In second place will be the President of the United States. Our contest is not about sports or politics, it's about books. It all started on New Year's Eve in 2005. President Bush asked what my New Year's resolutions were. I told him that as a regular reader who'd gotten out of the habit, my goal was to read a book a week in 2006. 3 days later, we were in the Oval Office when he fixed me in his sights and said, I'm on my 2nd. Where are you? Mr. Bush had turned my resolution into a contest, etc., etc., etc. Rove revealed that in 2006, he had read 110 books to Mr. Bush's 95. In 2007, it was 76 books to Bush's 51. And as of that last week of last year, 2008 was Rove 64, Bush 40. Rove tells us that during the 3 years of the contest, Bush read a lot of history and biography, and of course biography is merely history made specific, about Lincoln, William Jennings Bryan, Genghis Khan, and LBJ. Huey Long, Andrew Carnegie, Mark Twain, King Leopold, the English-speaking peoples, the manhunt for Lincoln's assassin, Khrushchev, Andrew Mellon, Dean Acheson, Vienna in 1814, FDR, the Spanish Civil War, and Babe Ruth. The mind reels. For 8 years, history ran hot and cold through every minute of George Bush's life. He was knee-deep in it, carried by it, reckless with it, desperate to influence it. And instead of staying focused on it, he preferred to read about it. And unless he took Evelyn Wood's speed reading courses in his 20s, Mr. Bush clearly made some terrible choices during his presidency. Reading about King Leopold instead of reading about the economy. Reading about Genghis Khan instead of reading about A.Q. Khan. Reading about the Spanish Civil War instead of reading about the Iraq Civil War. Reading at a pace that never got significantly below a book a week and often approached 2 of them. What anybody with, say, a full-time job could only dream of doing. So here's the true Bushian legacy finally evident. The man who read too much. Ironic that, considering the infamy of him reading My Pet Goat on that Tuesday morning so many Septembers ago. Ironic that, considering that a month earlier in the most prime of reading venues at the ranch, after a hard 6 months plus of not really doing anything yet as president, it was what he didn't read that made all the difference in the world. That day that they brought him the broad strokes of 9/11 in booklet form. Too bad, Mr. Bush. Next time, less Babe Ruth, more bin Laden determined to strike in U.S. WTF. Let's count down for this, the 2,225th day since the previous president declared a mission accomplished in Iraq. I'm Keith Olbermann. Good night and good luck.